Okay, hit it, Michelle.
Perfect. So you all know me, so I don't need to introduce myself, but I want to go ahead and just take this opportunity to go ahead and go over some of the things that we see in a prelim. This new PowerPoint that we've created, it has everything, the whole kit and caboodle. So we will go pretty much and touch on everything. And then we'll go ahead and open it up to questions after. So I'm going to go ahead and go over here. Okay, so we need to have a come to Jesus meeting. How many of you actually, as agents, actually read the prelim? I do make phone calls and go over prelims with the agents to go over any kind of red flags so that we're aware. Shannon, do you still see the recorded message in the middle of the screen, or no? Is it just me?
No, you need to click it that it's okay for me to record you.
It says this meeting is being recorded. Continue.
Yeah.
There we go. Perfect. So again, I'd like to go over in the beginning stages of our prelim to go ahead and see if we have any kind of issues that we need to get started on figuring out game plans to go ahead and get up and going with trying to clear title. Sometimes we have things that may show on a prelim that show because we don't have a statement of information. So those are easy fixes. Those go away once we do get the statement of information. But sometimes we have things that show that take time to clear. So it's really important. I also get in touch with escrow. If we do have items that are red flags, I do reach out to escrow as well so that we can make sure that everyone's on top of it. It gets it into the conversation log, and then that way we can kind of resolve any issues ahead of time. So let's go ahead and go here. So we're going to get into the first page of our prelim, and you can see here that it's going to have our escrow information, our title order number, which is different than the escrow number, and our property in question. Now, it's going to also show our title officer. Audrey is always available for any questions. We can always pick up the phone. You can call her anytime. She's fabulous. If you do feel uncomfortable, you can go ahead and give me a call and I can go ahead and take care of any issues one-on-one with Audrey. So again, really important to know who is involved, and yes, you can reach out to them at any point in time. There's no such thing as a silly question. Always, it's better to reach out and be safe and proactive than it is to just assume everything is fine. So you can see here in Schedule A, we're showing our vested owner. So we're showing Robert and Judith Smith, trustees. It's in a trust. So again, that would be your second point of contact of knowing it's in a trust. You would already know before your prelim on your profile whether it is in a trust or not. So again, this just confirms. Sometimes people take things in and out of trusts. Sometimes with the property profile, agents, there's too many documents. It's hard for them to tell, okay, it comes into the trust, it comes out of the trust, comes into the trust. So sometimes we have questions on, is it actually in the trust or is it not? So here we're just confirming it is in the trust.
And can I just say something also, like sometimes we as agents get pretty lazy and we quickly look at the realist tax on MLS and it doesn't always show the trust. So you definitely need to pull the property profile just to reconfirm that.
And you know what? I have to be honest. Realist is a fantastic tool, but it's not a standalone. So you always want to use Realist alongside an actual data provided system so that you can go ahead. You know, Realist, it's all of the information is input by manual. So this way we're coming directly off of the chain of title. So it's great to use it all you can, but make sure you use it hand in hand with another, you know, reputable system for sure. So you can see here that we have a legal description. We always put our legal description on a separate page. Escrow will use this for our actual documents that they prepare. Sometimes this is a small legal description. Sometimes the legal description is like a small book. So that's why we go ahead and do that. If it is a lengthy legal description, it just takes being one digit off for it to mispost to an incorrect property chain. So we make sure that we go ahead and offer this so that escrow has the ease of adding this exhibit to their actual documents when they're prepared. Now, Schedule B items, we're getting into the meat and potatoes on our prelim. So we're going to start off with taxes. So you can see here that we're showing the actual taxes. We show whether they've been paid, if they're delinquent. I do remember an agent called and they were devastated because their client, the poor little wife, had paid the property taxes late. And so once we went ahead and showed that it was paid with the penalty, she was beside herself. We can't manipulate it. If it was paid with a penalty, it was paid with a penalty. If it's delinquent, we'll show it delinquent. We can't change those items, but at least she paid the taxes, so no worries. She was good. Also, you can see here that we're showing covenants, conditions, and restrictions. These are our CC&Rs. I do have a lot of agents that have misconceptions with CC&Rs. They think that if there are CC&Rs in the prelim, that means they have an HOA. They are two separate entities. So CC&Rs, most every home has CC&Rs. Some homes have CC&Rs that were done way back in the day, so early 1900s. If we have old CC&Rs, that does not make them invalid. It just means that times have changed. So a lot of CC&Rs may have references to, you know, religion, race, you know, any kind of status in the way of familial status. Even though it does refer to those items being as part of the CC&Rs, those would not stand up in court in this day and age. So, you know, doesn't make them invalid completely. They're still there. You know, you can't get rid of that. So, you know, an example that I have with the CC&Rs in that type of situation is we had a reference in the CC&Rs that no alcohol was to be prepared or sold. And basically that was, you know, for the times of prohibition. It had totally a different meaning of what, you know, is today's world. So the gentleman buying the house, he actually was a beer maker. So he prepared beer in his garage and he sold it from his home. So they were a little apprehensive to move forward on that sale. Now, who's going to go ahead and, you know, regulate these CC&Rs, especially the old ones? We don't know. But the fact of the matter is that they are there. They're part of the property chain. We can't just ignore those things. It could take, you know, a neighbor that's been there forever in the neighborhood that doesn't approve of, you know, beer being made and sold from site. So it would take someone like that ending up going into a court setting, and you know what, it could be a problem for him. So he chose not to move forward with the purchase of that home. So again, even though it had a whole different meaning, again, it's there. You know, we can't get rid of that. So now we're getting into easements. So easements are, they're a big question mark. So easements, most properties have easements. Out where you are, a lot of our easements are underground. You can't see them. You cannot build on an easement. Hen house, dog house, anything permanent, you cannot build on an easement. Whoever holds the rights to that easement has the right to go ahead and access that easement. So you want to make sure if you have a buyer that has a use for that property, Now, don't do it on every one. Mr. Markham will get after me, but when you have a buyer that has, they're making a purchase and they have, you know, a family circumstance where they're going ahead and they're going to be bringing grandma into the home and they want to build grandma house in the yard. They don't want her to go into the home, the old folks home. So if they wanted to build something like that, or if it's their dream to have an amazing pool for the kiddos, if they have a need or use for that property, I always suggest that you get those easements plotted. So what happens is when we have an open transaction, we at Landwood offer the service of plotted easements for your clients. So we go ahead and prepare those. So what we do is we take all of the easements, we take a map, and we go ahead and we put those easements directly onto the map so that your client can see where their restrictions are. So that is a free service on our open transactions. Not every title company does do that, but we do. So it's really important, not with every deal. If they love the house and it already has the pool, there's no need to go ahead and order those plotted easements. But if you have that buyer, it's better to know ahead of time if that home is going to work for them. So again, it's the cost of doing business. We go ahead and offer that service. So again, keep your eyes open for that. You need to ask the questions. You know, at title, we never see your clients. Escrow sees your clients for notarization of documents, things like that. Title, we never see your clients. We see all of the things that have to do with your clients in the way of liens and judgments and things, the kind of like the skeletons in the closet, but we never ever have interaction with your clients. So really important to listen and to ask those questions. So now we have our mortgage. So you can see here we have a mortgage. It shows the face value of that loan. We don't show the actual balance. That would be the most recent mortgage statement from your clients. Again, it's really important that you look to see how many liens there are. How many deeds of trust are there? Are there one? Are there two? So again, it's really important to be able to take a look and see, because sometimes folks have an equity line of credit that maybe they forgot about, you know, so it's really important to take a look at that. I can't tell you how many times in a week we have a lien that shows that the client was unaware of. So it kind of just, our thought process kind of, you know, we forget. People get equity lines for an emergency or something down the road. It was really popular in the 80s. But sometimes people don't realize if they still have it. They assume if they refinance their mortgage that that was taken care of. Again, an equity line of credit is very, very different than a regular mortgage. So we're going to go into that as well. So you can see here on number 13, it does show the above deed of trust appears to be a secured equity line of credit. It'll be necessary that escrow collect all the checks, passbooks, and credit cards prior to the close of escrow. So if we have an equity line of credit, what we need to do is we need to, number one, escrow will have to have instructions to freeze that account. So once they freeze that account, that means that that client can no longer access the funds for that line of credit. So when we go ahead and freeze the account, they collect the checks. Then when we go to make that payoff, now an equity line of credit, it shows the face value, but it can have a zero balance. If they've never used it, it can show the face value, but it could have a zero balance. It could be maxed out. They could have even extended above and beyond the face value. So it's really important that we go ahead and get any kind of information ahead of time on that credit line. Now, when we go ahead and make that payoff, we will make sure when we send the payoff check that that account is closed. So when people get refinances and they refinance a mortgage, but they have an equity line, maybe from a couple of years back, let's say 10 years, that's like a magic number. So if they have an equity line from 10 years back and they forgot about it, what happens if that lender that held that equity line of credit is no longer available? What happens if they close their doors? So if we have an equity line that's older, that's still open, I can work side by side with your clients and you and escrow to find out who took over that equity line of credit. So we have the tools at Landwood to go ahead and see who is currently holding that lien. So sometimes we need to do a little bit of legwork. Sometimes it takes a lot of time to go ahead and get the information. Escrow needs to order a demand on this just like any other deed of trust. So we need to make sure that we can help escrow facilitate where to request that demand. We have had in the past equity lines of credit that it ends up being with a specific lender, but they don't have it in their computer. So you get someone on the phone and they can't find that loan within their computer system. So we do have times where we need to be strong and bold and get to the top. So, and I don't mind helping you out with that at all. So we do have problems often on equity lines of credit. They all have been taken care of. I've never had something that was not fixable. So again, we need to make sure that we work on these together. Now, number 7, I'm showing another deed of trust here. So you can see here, we're just showing just a few different types so that you know what you're looking at when you see the different options. Now, number 8, this is a financial statement. So you're going to see a financing statement for solar is the main one that we usually see. But the financial statement for solar, this is usually when they go ahead and do a solar lease, or if they're purchasing it outright directly from the solar company and financing it, you will see this financing statement. So again, you can see here it shows what it's for. So it's for sun power. So again, this is independent solar energy product here. Again, this is our way of showing that this is a solar system that has been either financed or purchased or leased. So again, you will not see this with Hero. Hero with solar is going to show up a little bit different. But again, we also need to figure out what the terms are on this solar. We need to see if it's transferable. We need to make sure that we figure out what options we have. What happens if we have a solar lease and the buyer is not interested in carrying on that solar lease? What do we do to get out of that lease? And then they've removed the actual solar from the home. We need to figure all of those things out early on. So again, we're showing here another deed of trust here, Schools First Credit Union. So again, just different types of loans that you may see. You may see 1, you may see 3. Again, we want to make sure when you meet with your client that when you have your property profile and your listing appointment, we need to make sure that, you know, if we are showing 2 loans on the property profile, you need to have the questions right there on the listing appointment. Okay, I see you have 2 mortgages. That's going to be your first point of contact with figuring out, and that's when you're going to hear, no, I only have 1. So we have to start to go ahead and figure that out. So again, just to say, if we show 2, that's not always an equity line of credit situation. Sometimes they had done a refinance and that lender never provided a full reconveyance. We can work with the clients on figuring out, because there's no such thing as mortgage heaven. If we're showing, you know, 2 loans of record, we need to clarify and figure out what we need to do to release those prior to close, because we at Title are issuing clear title to our purchaser. So sometimes, you know, we have to go digging for the recon. So the full reconveyance, sometimes the lender sends it directly to the county for recordation. Sometimes the lender sends it to the homeowner. So sometimes they think it's trash and they throw it away. Sometimes we see an unopened full reconveyance sealed in the envelope in their box of records. So we've seen all kinds of situations. Sometimes we have an old deed of trust that shows from maybe, 30 years back. Maybe it was a low amount, maybe $10,000. Sometimes if we get nowhere, sometimes the client would have to go ahead and hook up with a bond company and get a bond for that. So again, there are options. I'm more than happy to help out your clients with these problems. So I can put on my detective hat, and I've been in the title business for 34 years. I'm educated. I can help your clients and you get to clearing some of these items. So you can see here number 11. Since this
18. Or 18,
or
whichever
18,
number you're looking at.
yes, little 11, big 18. So you can see here that since this property is being held in a trust, we are asking for a certification of trust. A lot of folks have questions with that. So the certification of trust, basically that form will go out to your clients in the escrow package. We send all of the appropriate paperwork to escrow with their prelim. So this certification of trust basically is telling us, because trusts are not recorded, so we have no idea of telling if there were any amendments done to the trust. We have to be able to ask those questions. So again, the certification of trust is a certification that your homeowners are going to sign and let us know that we have the full copy of the trust if we ask for it, and that there have been no amendments made that we're unaware of. So again, it's just a simple form, but a lot of times we do have situations with trusts. Folks will put their property in a trust and then they lose the trust, or they put it in a safe place, but they don't know where that is. So if there's any death of the trustees, we can't move forward without seeing a copy of that trust. So we have gotten creative with that. If they know of the attorney that prepared the trust, we have reached out to attorneys, and sometimes they still have the trust in their system or in their file. But if it's a real old situation, sometimes we need to get the courts involved with moving forward. So the trust, having your property in a trust, is the utmost protection for the homeowner. So it's in the trust owns the property, that's the utmost protection, and we need to protect the actual trustors of that trust. So it's really important that we go ahead and we go by what that trust says. So the trust is going to show any kind of successor trustees. It's going to show beneficiaries. It's going to show all of the detailed information, and those are not recorded. So that's why we do need those. Now, little 12, big 19, we're showing a judgment. So a lot of times when we show a lien or a judgment, meaning a judgment in the way of child support, so a child support lien, an IRS tax lien, a federal tax lien. So these liens, we may show one lien or judgment. If we have a seller that has a very common name like Mark Smith, Mary Smith, things like that, we'll show one of the judgments, but there may be hundreds more if we have a common name. So we'll show one judgment so that we can get that statement of information into title so that we can go ahead and clear those liens and judgments. Now, as an agent, if you do have a seller that has a common name, when I call to go over any kind of prelim with you, we will go ahead and discuss getting that statement of information over to myself so I can get that to Audrey in a timely fashion. So usually with title, we don't get trickles from escrow. So when escrow sends us the documents for recording, we're already at the end and getting ready to close, and you're getting ready to get paid, right? So sometimes if we have a common name and we get that statement of information in, an hour before we're supposed to release for recording, we can have liens and judgments that would pop up in the last hour. So it's really important to look at the prelim, look at our names. If we're showing a lien or a judgment, you're sitting at that dining room table with your clients. Sometimes you need to deal with an elephant in the room. So you can tell if someone needs to sell their home yesterday for no apparent reason. Sometimes people have liens or judgments that are coming and they want to sell the house prior to. So again, you could be at a listing appointment dealing with a client that maybe has a little high anxiety. They need to sell their house, but they can't tell you why. Sometimes they're going through a divorce. They don't want to go ahead and deal with, child support. We have seen all kinds of different situations. But if you're at that listing appointment and you feel uneasy, you don't want to wait until the end of the transaction to see if a lien or judgment pops up. If you get that gut feeling, which doesn't happen very often, but when it does, go with your gut feeling. You can give me a call when we go over the prelim together, and I can go ahead and monitor that file, weekly, so that we can go ahead and date down the file and see if anything has popped up. Now, a traditional transaction where you have your traditional clients selling, you don't need to worry about it. It's just when something seems off or does not seem right, we can go ahead and do that. I don't have a problem. I've done that time and time again. But if you feel like something's up, just give me a call and I can go ahead and update that once a week, just so we have no surprises.
And I would add that a good best practice as a listing agent would be to put a statement of information in your disclosure package so that you have it ahead of time, because I have had the seller who waited till the day of closing or the day before closing to turn in that statement and had a lien pop up, and then we had to go chase down a reconveyance or whatever. So it delayed our closing. And of course, he was the one who was hammering the buyer about being on time, and then he slowed it up. So it happens.
Well, and you're not going to have that every time, but you know what? In my experience with agents, when something is up and you go with your gut, it just is one of those things. Now, a lot of folks, when they're selling their home, they think, oh, okay, I have a lien for a credit card, and you know what? I was able to refinance the house, so I think that it's fine, or maybe it's gone away, maybe it's dropped off. Refinancing is different, or when they make a purchase. So if someone makes a purchase and they have a lien or a judgment, they don't have to pay it prior to making that purchase. So if they have a lien or a judgment when they're purchasing, that just affects the rate they get for their loan. It affects their loan that they're going to be taking out. Now, when you go to sell your home, that's when all of the, I call it mud on your shoes, that's when the mud on the shoes has to be taken care of. So if you have a lien or a judgment, really important, when you go to sell, it's going to have to be taken care of, even though that's not something that was secured by the home. Anything that we show on the actual homeowner, we call it a GI search, it's general index. Anything that's showing on that homeowner would need to be taken care of. So sometimes we have child support. The kids are 25 now. Why are we showing child support? Well, you know what? Child support is the biggest thorn. It doesn't matter that they're adults now. It matters that you didn't take care of it when you were supposed to. So sometimes we have, child support liens. Yeah, the kids are older, but that's still there. You need to take care of it. And so if that had gone undone, sometimes it's a very hefty nut to crunch. But it has to be taken care of. We can't move forward. So again, we need to work with the courts and make sure that all of that is paid in full and everything is, fine to go ahead and move forward. But it's really important that folks know. Also, we've had situations, really important, with liens and judgments. We have people, creativity here in California, we're creative in so many ways. So people think that if we have a husband and wife on title and the wife has, you know, liens and judgments, a lot of times the homeowners think that they're getting creative and they're going to go ahead and get around the system by, you know, having the wife deed off to the husband. Well, that doesn't work. So the way that liens and judgments happen and the way that they stick to the property is once you hop onto title, everything from the past sticks to that property like mud on your shoes. So if you have someone that had really bad credit, or if you had someone that had gone through a divorce or what have you, they ended up going on to title. It doesn't matter if it was for 1 day, 1 year, 10 years, everything sticks. It doesn't go away. So all of those liens and judgments would need to be taken care of. So the only way that it would be beneficial is if someone deeded off title and the lien or judgment happened after the fact. So that would most likely be a better situation. But we have folks that add people onto title like Heinz does pickles. And you know what? I've seen so many instances where it has created a train wreck. So we've had, you know, adults bring their kids onto title because they need to go ahead and qualify for a refinance, or, you know, something, or that child ended up going through a divorce, or, you know, ended up getting married prior to going off of title, and his wife had liens or judgments. Well, California is a community property state. So again, we have instances where we have problems that need to be addressed. So again, we see all kinds of problems. I just had one last week where I had a grandma on title, and the agent had called and they wanted to go ahead and do a deed from grandma to the child of the property before they sold it, because grandma was on Medi-Cal. And when you go into Medi-Cal, you know, and you own property, there are instances where, you know, at the time of death or when you sell your home, that those Medi-Cal charges would need to be paid in full from the actual equity of the home. So sometimes we have situations that need to be addressed. Deeding the property to the daughter and having her sell it, that wouldn't help. So, you know, grandma had owned the property. You know, if you have clients that want to kind of get away or get around things, it's always best to direct them to legal advice and try not to get involved, because we have seen a lot of messes that are hard to clean up. So my theory is if we have an instance and grandma owned a home and she got into, you know, the Medi-Cal or what have you in the way of medical bills, then we just need to move forward and take care of those things through the close. So it's always best, you know, when you're dealing with the government or a governmental agency, you always want to do what's right, because if not, it could just be a really huge, huge burden down the road. And you don't want to get yourself into those kinds of situations. Do you have any questions on that one, Shannon?
Nope.
No. Okay, perfect. So again, there is our judgment. You can see here that little 13 big 20. You can see here that we have a lien for delinquent taxes. So again, we need to make sure that we're looking at these things. We would go ahead at this point in time and order demand on that. Escrow would go ahead and take care of any delinquencies. So when we do have older delinquencies, the county will go ahead and take those off of the tax roll so that they can go ahead and put them into a claims situation. So you may not see a delinquency when you get your property profile. It may not show that delinquency because, again, it's a more in-depth search of the property, and this is something that will show up in the preliminary process. So if it's taken off of the tax roll and it's for a few years back, you would not see that typically on your property profile. You can see here now that we have a notice of federal tax lien. Again, these are things that you need to go ahead and look for. Now, really important with these types of liens. So federal tax lien, you can see here that the face value is $27,000. And you can see the date on here of 2019. So these get large very quick. So I always tell my agents, don't go on that $27,000 face value. If it's an older lien, it can easily double or triple. So again, this is something that escrow will go ahead and order the demand statement for. And then that way we can go ahead and find out a little bit more information on that. We do have clients that try to call and see what the actual amount owed is. And, you know, we don't even like to go off of that because, again, there's liens, there's penalties. Sometimes we had clients that have called and they said, oh, yeah, it's $50,000. And by the time we get the demand back through escrow, it's $75,000. So, again, it's really important that we don't take those face values on these types of things to heart because, again, this will affect what your client will walk away with. So again, this will come out of, you know, his equity, obviously. So again, if you're, you know, budgeting that, oh yeah, you have this $27,000, you know, lien with the IRS or the feds, and then you say, okay, you know, you still have plenty of pads. Sometimes it's much larger. So we want to make sure that we're not giving out a specific amount to your clients on these types of liens. So again, really nice to be able to work on these things early on. And escrow, you know, turnaround time with COVID was really, we had big timelines with getting liens and judgments from governmental agencies. I'm hoping it's going to be getting better now that everything's starting to open up. But I've seen, you know, they take at least, you know, 8 to 12 weeks to be able to get some of these things taken care of. So that's why it's really important that we start working with escrow and having the conversations with our clients early on in the transaction so that we can go ahead and see how this is going to affect their bottom line. So now number 15, we're asking for a statement of information on our sellers. So again, like Shannon had said, it's always nice to have that statement of information, the blank forms in your car office, so your trunk. We have these available on our website. So it's really nice to be able to have those on hand. If you go on a listing appointment and your clients are leaving town and they have a common name, go ahead and have them fill that out ahead of time. You can go ahead and get that to me, and I can go ahead and have Audrey go ahead and clear that as part of the preliminary process. But definitely be aware of that. Have those on hand so that you can be prepared at a moment's notice. Okay, so again, I have Audrey's information here for you. Like I said, she is always available to talk to you on any subject. It's kind of nice to put a name with a face. So Audrey, you know, we've worked together for many, many, many years, and she is amazing at what she does. So I always tell her she has the last word because, you know, she has the best interest. I mean, we have a lot to lose at title. So we have to ensure clear title to our new purchaser. We want to make sure, you know, that we don't have anything that comes back that could be a claim, and have yourself as an agent or your clients in a court setting. We don't want to go there. We want to make sure that we're dotting all of our I's and crossing all of our T's. We don't look for things, bad things on good people. We like to be able to report out what we show on the property and the person so that we can move forward to help clear those items. We all, life is, we have ups and downs. We're not perfect. We all have silly things. We all have, I'm sure, skeletons in the closet. But at the end of the day, it's having compassion and grace to be able to help those clients, because, you know, even though we see those things, they feel lesser of a person having to deal with those things with you as the agent or escrow or myself. And, you know, life, I think that as long as we have our health and our family, that's all that matters. All the other stuff is silly stuff that, you know, they're chapters that we can go ahead and work through together. If you ever have situations with your clients that you feel uncomfortable with, I'm here for you. I don't mind speaking to clients. We could do conference calls together to try to work things out. I am here for you 150% to help get through. Each transaction's different. You know, I'm here to help. So does anybody have any questions? Is everyone quiet?
Just a quick, easy question, Michelle.
Very informative.
Is the PowerPoint available?
I can go ahead and get you the PowerPoint for sure.
Yeah, just to have as a quick reference.
Yes, definitely. I can go ahead and send that over to you.
Awesome.
Again, it's a dummy, but it
Yeah,
could be
of
useful
course.
for sure. Yes.
Yeah, of course.
We kind of put a lot of stuff
All the
on
bad
Stuff in there.
in that one.
Gotta cover all the bases.
Yes, all the bases. So again, you know, any questions that you guys have, even if it's on another, if you're representing a buyer or by some chance you didn't get, you know, Landwood, you know, I'm here for you. We're family. I'm more than happy to help. I can guide you. I can tell you what questions to ask. So don't feel like you can't reach out. You can reach out. I'm here to help no matter what. At the end of the day, that's what makes my heart smile, is actually the relationships that we have. It's more than a business relationship. So I'm here for you guys anytime at all.
And I got to say that Michelle helped tremendously on one of our agents' files that wasn't with Landwood on a whole solar situation. And her and Audrey were just on it, pulling every document they could, making phone calls to get a release. And she was amazing, way more than what the title officer was doing on the actual file. So thank you, Michelle.
Anytime, it's my pleasure. You know, a lot of folks feel anxiety if they feel like they need to make a phone call to the title officer. You know, never have a problem. I can't advise, or I can't make a phone call and deal directly with the other, you know, title officer, obviously. But I can do any kind of back work. I could take a look at the backside. I can help you ask the right questions. I can explain the whole dynamic to you if you don't understand, and then that way you'll understand a little bit more, and then you can go and ask the questions. So I don't have a problem with that at all. You know, I still see things, even though I've been in the business and I've been in all of the departments on the inside with title, I still see things that I've never seen before. You know, so that education is key, right? And being able to learn keeps our minds fresh. But yes, I still see things that I have never seen before. So sometimes we can go through these things together, for sure.
Lynette, did you have a question? I thought I saw you.
Oh, no, I was just saying thank you very much. It's very informative, you know, so it's good to know.
It's my pleasure. I'll go ahead and send off a sample of this PowerPoint, Shannon, to you, and then you can go ahead and send it off.
Got it.
Directly.
All right, I'm going to stop recording right now.